Hi, I'm Nick.
And I'm Mel. I grew up playing outside.
And I grew up doing something meaningful, watching movies and TV.
I never had cable, and we finally bought a VCR about the same time DVD players hit the market.
Throughout our marriage, Mel has sadly missed many of my pop culture references and movie quotes.
So it's time to catch up on all the films I missed.
Good evening, Melissa.
Hello, Nick.
It is so exciting to have you once again in the presence of me as we record this podcast.
I'm back from the black hole.
You are. We missed you. Any adventures that you had while you were in there?
I can't tell you.
Wow.
You just have to experience a black hole for yourself. It's indescribable.
I bet. I was thinking maybe you'd seen my list of movies that I keep, because, that is a chamber of secrets as well. So I'm glad to hear that it wasn't located in the black hole and you didn't see. I don't like spoilers,
Right, of course. Yeah.
So speaking of spoilers, you know what we're watching tonight.
Yes, I do.
What are we watching tonight?
Independence Day!
Otherwise known as...
What?
Do you remember the marketing around this movie?
The 4th of July movie? No, I don't remember the marketing.
You don't remember the marketing?
No, I don't.
Everywhere you looked, you would see it was 3 characters. ID4.
Oh, yes.
Remember that?
Yes. Okay, I'm with you now.
It was on all the posters.
Yeah.
It was everywhere. There was no... If Twitter had been a thing, and, before it became X, there would have been hashtag ID4. So, yeah.
I love this movie.
It's a great movie.
I'm so excited to watch it.
Yeah. What are you most looking forward to about seeing in this movie?
Okay. It's everything. I love all the good moments.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Pullman's rallying speech.
Mm-hmm.
Will Smith in the desert dragging the alien and just all of those moments. Oh my gosh. As I'm thinking of it, more are popping into my brain. I'm not going to go through them all, but yes, I'm looking forward to all that. And just, It's watching it is like a warm hug from your past. You know what I mean? It's
Yes,
a hug of nostalgia. I love it.
What do you if there's someone listening to this right now who hasn't seen this movie, what would you say to them?
Drop everything you're doing.
Everything.
And make sure you've gone to the bathroom and just settle in and watch the whole movie.
Practical advice.
You don't want to be interrupted. You want as close to a movie theater experience as you can get.
That's true.
With this one. As big of a screen as you can get. Turn the volume up and enjoy it. It's such a good film.
Wow. It is good. It's also a very fun travel back through time because, it was made in the 90s. Wow. Okay. So what piece of advice would you give yourself while you're watching this right now? Because you're about to go watch it. What do you want to tell yourself to keep you on target, non-focused?
Probably look for the smaller parts, the smaller things.
Okay.
Don't just wait for the big moments, but try to be observant in all of it.
Okay.
It's so good.
Well, even though you've seen this movie, describe the movie poster for me. Because you've seen it. I want to see how close you can get to it.
I think it's the shot of the White House.
Okay.
And a beam of light going down to the White House.
Okay.
And it says ID4. I don't remember what the tagline is.
Okay.
Oh, it's something about a countdown or I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Because there's the whole countdown of it starts on July 1st or something. And
Yeah. Okay.
How close did I get? Do you have the poster right now?
I'll show it to you after. I don't have it up right now.
Okay.
So are you ready?
I am so ready.
All right.
Yes.
We're going to live on. We're going to watch this. Let's go watch Independence Day.
Let's do this.
Let's do it.
July 2nd, they arrive. July 3rd, they attack. July 4th is Independence Day. coming this summer.
Wow. I never get tired of seeing that movie.
No, not at all. Ooh, that was good.
There are like two things that are for sure going to happen when I watch that movie.
Okay.
One, I'm going to cry at least 2 times.
Wait, what
Happens
times do you cry?
Every single time I watch it.
I know you cry during the speech, but what's the other time?
And we're not talking like sobbing crying, but like, you know what I mean? I'm not like in a corner with a box of tissues, but like tears start to invade my eyes. And then they slowly past, go past the bulge. And when I blink, like a solitary tear will come down. Right.
Wow.
Every time there's that presidential speech.
Yeah.
Every time.
I get goosebumps.
Even if I look it up on YouTube at a random time, I'm getting goosebumps talking about the speech right now.
So without like the buildup of the movie, if you just watch the speech?
Yeah. I watched it once as a joke, and it's like a Pavlovian response for me. I can't help it. It just starts happening.
It's so good.
It's so good. Now about that speech, right? They wrote the speech. The producer and director of the movie, right? They went out, Ronald Emmerich and I'm embarrassed about, I don't remember the other guy, Devlin. He's the producer. So they were like, we got to go write a movie. And they knew that Tim Burton was going to be coming out with Mars Attacks. Have you ever seen that, by the way?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. He was coming out with that, which was an alien invasion movie.
Didn't know that was Tim Burton. Okay,
yeah.
Go on.
Yeah. And they were like, we got to write this thing fast. So they just like rented, I think it was a house in Mexico, and they just locked themselves in this house and wrote it in like 3 weeks. Did like, one of them was writing, one of them was using like little Post-it cards to do the storyboards.
Whoa.
Boom, 3 weeks. And they're like, all right, we're going to pitch this around. And there were like 9 or 10 big studios, and they did like a bidding war and all that. And 20th Century Fox bought it. But that speech wasn't touched. Like, they just wrote it in a whirlwind and they didn't think about it, right? And then the day was coming to do the speech. When they wrote it, they were like, we'll tweak it up later. We'll do whatever later. And they never did. So then it was about to like come the day where they're going to give the speech, and they're kind of like freaking out a bit. And he's like, I got to go rewrite it. I got to do it better. And then he like arrives, and Bill Pullman had already given the speech, and it was like amazing. And it worked out like great.
That was the original unedited version?
Yes, except for one line. There was like this like back and forth. The studios wanted to like release it. They wanted to call the movie Doomsday or something like that. And they wanted to release it earlier in the year. And Roland, I don't know how to pronounce it, but Emmerich, he was like, we're going to make the last line be, today we celebrate our Independence Day. So he could like solidify the name. And like, he really wanted to call it Independence Day.
I love it.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
That's awesome. Okay.
Well, before we move on from the speech, another crazy fact, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they filmed it at like 2:30 in the morning. So everybody was like tired, and all the cast and the extras. And Bill Pullman was actually like, this is good. This is like a good energy in order to give this speech. Oddly enough, it was also the day of the verdict of the O.J. Simpson trial.
What?
Which was like a crazy weird energy in the whole country. If you were alive at that time, you will remember.
Yeah, absolutely. You were waiting for it.
Yes. That's the setting in which the speech was given, which I just think is just crazy.
Wow.
So
life
cool.
was so different back then.
It really was.
That's what was occupying all of our thoughts and time.
Yes, it was.
Wow. Okay, so that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you shared that. You were also saying that you cried twice during the movie.
Correct.
What's the other time you cry? Oh, is it when the wife dies?
No. No.
Oh, silly me.
Silly you. No. Tales all this time for my generation and earlier, whenever a dad says to his son that he's proud of him.
Oh.
It just punches you right in the feels.
Yeah.
It just punches me right in the feels.
Oh, I love the father-son.
Such a great relationship in the movie.
Yeah.
And like, he's saying goodbye to his son, probably for the last time. He's doing this impossible mission. He doesn't say, I love you. He just says, I'm very proud of you.
Right, exactly.
And then he walks away. Man.
That's Judd Hirsch and Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah. Every time.
They're such a great father-son pair.
They're really
casting was awesome.
So good. the other casting too, like Will Smith, they really had to fight hard to get Will Smith in this movie.
Really? Why?
Yeah. Well, he was an unknown. Like he did the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Back then, like the big concern from the studio was like, he's a black actor. He's not going to do well overseas. Like that can only work in America. That can't work anywhere else in the world. How things have changed. Right?
Yeah. Another stark realization.
Yeah.
That's so different.
But they like really wanted him in there. They really liked the dichotomy of Jeff Goldblum and Will Smith, like just them bouncing off of each other.
I do too.
Yeah. It's so good. And they actually like ad-libbed a lot of their stuff.
Really?
When they were doing the fat lady, like all those lines, like that's ad-libbed. They had Will Smith ad-lib when he was like going over to the alien ship after he had taken down that one fighter. Mm-hmm. And he was, talking about, I could have been at a barbecue and all that stuff. Like they just kept having him just do lines, run lines and say different things.
That's one of my favorite parts.
I know. So like the energy on the cast and on the sets and stuff, it was frenetic and hectic because they were doing these things and filming the scenes and the special effects. Like there was one point when the director was like, okay, sweet, I'm doing all the stuff with the live people. Like, but how the special effects doing? Like, we got these pictures of what we're going to do. Mm. And he's like, no! Like, just looking at the time crunch they had with the effects and stuff. Because all that's practical. Like,
that's crazy. All the explosions.
Yeah.
There's so many explosions.
So many explosions. The White House was like 15 feet by like 5 feet.
Wow.
It was huge model.
So everything they blew up, they built a model of and blew it up.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. Which
that's so cool.
The pyrotechnics of that, the actual explosions and the energy of that, you can really feel it. Like I really like the effects in this movie. They totally hold up. This is from 1996. Yeah. And it holds up really well. There's a few spots where it's a little, a little glitchy, but all in all, the effects are just still awesome. Wow. They actually...
I can't argue with you.
I'm gushing. Sorry. You need to interrupt me with this one because the energy I have for this movie is like, it's like the ship is in orbit, so all the buzzes and whistles have gone off in my brain because the interesting stuff is happening.
Speaking of the ship, so what really stood out to me this time was like how, and this is like connected to the practical effects, like how they showed the enormity of the ship in space.
The mothership,
yeah. And the other ones that like came down to Earth.
Yeah.
But they did it a couple times where they just showed how enormous and huge it was. Yeah. So was that a model too?
The big one in space, I mean, I'm sure it was. I don't know that one for certain. Most of the things I've read talk about, like the Statue of Liberty, in order to get the shadow to cast over it when the ship landed, they just like backed up a lighting truck. So like it cast the shadow over it where it would go.
Nice.
But most of the buildings were, and I'm fairly certain a lot of the ships were too.
Well, there's a couple parts where like, first of all, there's like a satellite that kind of just is orbiting and it just crashes into the side of it. And it's so small, you almost just lose it.
Yeah, it's like a vision test when you're watching it. You're like, where is it?
It's like, whoa. And just that makes you feel so small and like scared. I just remember the first time I watched it, I don't get as scared when I watch it now, but on the first viewings, like just how it was really scary. And like when the nuclear weapon doesn't work, that's so scary. That's the biggest weapon we have. And it did nothing. Like, you're
like crestfallen.
Yes. Your heart drops.
Yeah.
And then again, like just showing off how like the size of the mothership is just so crazy. I love how they created it, like how they styled it. And then when like Jeff Goldblum and Will Smith go and fly up and into the mothership. Again, it just gives you the sense of the scope. It's just crazy, which is all the better when we take them down.
When we do our stuff.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, we've actually done this movie before on the podcast. This movie has such gravity that it's the second time we're doing it. But this time we watched it with a twist, didn't we?
Right, we did.
Would you like to explain what that twist is?
It's really technical, and you were geeking out a lot about it.
I was.
We watched it in like a square screen, as if we were watching it on a television.
Yes.
Which they don't make those anymore. Like
televisions?
Square. No, square televisions.
Yeah.
A 4x3, you kept saying.
Yep.
So is it
4x3
4
ratio.
going across the top and
Yeah.
3 going?
Yeah. 4 units by 3. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
So not a perfect square. But
yeah.
yes, so we watched it on that.
Yes. Well, I figured we'd already watched it in widescreen for the first time we did it.
Mhm.
And because we were watching it again, I wanted to watch something, just make it different, a little spicy, a little something different. Also, I've watched this movie so much that my widescreen one just plain doesn't work. So it was kismet. It worked out quite well.
Also out of necessity.
Yes.
Did you like this format? Like, would you watch movies in this format again? Or was it, I don't know.
I mean,
what was your experience?
I was going to ask you what you thought about it, because I have a lot of thoughts, but the most noticeable thing about this format is it lops off the sides.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you literally think about, if you're looking at your widescreen computer or TV, you just literally lop off, like, I don't know, like a third of each, not a third of each side, but you lose probably like a sixth of the image, like of your widescreen.
So we literally didn't see the full movie
Correct.
this time because I could tell.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite version to watch it on.
No, it's horrible. It's completely horrible. Absolutely.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Well, there are a couple of reasons you would watch it. Okay. One, you've seen it in 16:9 so many times. And you're like, I wonder what it was like to watch it.
But
on
why
a
do
tiny
they really
television.
have it available? Like, why is that a setting?
Well, that's a setting because the DVD set that I have is from 1997. And all the televisions that were being sold, I'm making up a number, but 95% of them were 4:3. Like, you had to spend, you like the number I made up?
I mean, how can I take you seriously when you make up?
Well, I don't know the statistic, but I remember what life was like. I remember going, oh, there are these things called plasma TVs that came out, which didn't ever take off. They were like the best picture, and they were, the dimensions were 16:9 and everything. What are you laughing about? Plasma TVs?
Sorry,
have you not heard of these before?
I've heard of them. I just always think of like plasma donations.
So you think it's like blood donation TVs?
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
Like I don't really know what it means in TV lingo. Like I only know what it means for blood.
Now I'm going to think about blood being the thing that fuels the plasma now. Wow, that's amazing. Anyway, the reason that that disc set existed is because people hated widescreen when they came out. You'd be watching on a 4:3 TV, and if you watched, they called it letterbox back then, right? The letterbox edition, right? You didn't know this either? Okay.
We owned
what?
You know the TV that we owned. Like
Yes.
it's so old. Like
Yes.
there was no other technology in my house. So I'm not aware of any of this happening.
Oh, am I? Okay. All right. Well, this was the world. If you had a lot of money, then you could, or you were really liked film, whatever, you would spend the money to either have a projection unit and laser discs and etc. Or you would have, there were widescreen TVs, but they were like uber expensive. We're talking like $5,000, $10,000 for a TV in the 90s. Like,
yeah. Okay.
really expensive. It's expensive now. But so letterbox edition was the nerds would watch it and they go, I could see the sides over there. But it was so squished and so small. Everything else was tiny because you were looking at it on a square screen.
Because you'd have to fit it into the square.
You did. You would
Okay.
see black bars on the top and bottom, which people hated because it was like, you're losing so much. Like, I'm losing so much of my screen. What's going on? So that's why they had the 4:3. And they were slowly going over to it. And then once it started to convert, once screens started going widescreen, then that's when widescreen in 16:9 started becoming the default.
Okay. I have an unrelated question for
Oh,
you.
please.
Why is it in the movie theater?
Mhm.
You've got like the screen is like the way where it is.
Yeah.
But then when the movie's about to start, it widens. Is this related to anything?
Slightly. They use a different projector to show you their advertisements and their television stuff than they do for the actual movie.
Okay.
So sometimes it does the opposite. Sometimes it'll be wide and then they widen it and the movie's smaller, and that just ticks me right off.
It would.
I'm like, why wouldn't you use all the screen?
I go through the world not noticing any of this.
Oh, stuff drives me bonkers. So anyway, that's why we watched it on 4:3. That was way longer of a diatribe than I was intending, but you are welcome. Hopefully you are educated. And if you want to watch it in 4:3, it'll be like watching something with your eye covered. Like you can't see a little bit on the sides. And if you want to see what life was like in the 90s, watch it in 4:3. Otherwise, go with the widescreen.
Yeah. I second that motion.
Yeah.
Okay, back to the movie.
Yes.
I was thinking about during this watching, like, just why I love the characters so much. And I was thinking especially about like the president, Bill Pullman, and Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum. They're like the heroes of the film.
Yes.
And they're like, especially like Jeff Goldblum and Will Smith, when they're so humble. They're not like, oh, I can do this. I'm going to save everyone or whatever.
Yeah.
They're like, do you know how to do this? I don't think so. Do you know how to do this? Like, what are we going to do? And they just kind of try things, but they're very, I don't know, just their attitude about being the hero was not, it's different than what you might see today. Do you know what I mean?
To a degree, yeah. Like they're humble yet confident, I think is kind of what you're getting at. Like Will Smith definitely has swagger in this movie. Like that's kind of his thing. But he's also, you also like, they just feel like real people. They feel like everyman. They're the everyman.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you get that sense versus like a lot of times you'll see heroes or action heroes and you're like, that doesn't feel like a real person.
Right. Yeah.
You know? So, I have ideas about this, but what do you think makes this movie so successful? Because do you remember what it was like when this movie came
out? Bonkers. Like, yeah.
Like it was bonkers. Like people, the 5-day run on how much money it made, it was like, it made almost $100 million in 1996 in its 5-day holiday weekend.
Wow.
Like, it was just 50 million in just the opening weekend, which was like crazy money back then. People, it was almost like what you think of with Star Wars. Like people were lined around the block trying to get in. It was crazy. It was like a phenomenon.
I think a couple things. First of all, they had great marketing.
They did.
Marketing was like on target. It was great. And did we get July 4th movies? Like, was that a thing?
Not really.
That kind of feels like special, right? And it's actually, we should get more because it's a great time to go to the movies because you're hot. The movie theater is air conditioned. You have some time off, but you don't have to really necessarily go see family. You're not like doing all this traveling. So we should have more movies made for the 4th of July.
Yeah. I mean, this movie, like Spielberg actually called Roland and he was like, congratulations on your movie. I'm not upset that you used the line from Jurassic Park because Jeff Goldblum was worried. He was like, I'm worried that Mr. Spielberg might be upset because that was like, they were just having fun. They were like, just do the line from Jurassic Park. That'd be funny.
Must go faster.
Yeah, must go faster. And they kept it. Like they kept it in the movie.
Yeah.
Spielberg was like, no, it's great. You made a great movie. It's a good movie. You redefined what the summer blockbuster is, which having Spielberg tell you that, like he literally created the summer blockbuster with Jaws. Like that was the first blockbuster movie.
Right.
So like the way he really liked the way they blended genres too, the disaster movie and the aliens, like sci-fi, like, they, to like prep themselves. Sorry, I missed this earlier, but to prep themselves when they were writing this, they were like watching a whole bunch of 70s disaster movies.
Oh, fun.
Which those are amazing. If you haven't seen them, they're awesome. Anyway, I just can't imagine. But Spielberg was like, you made a great movie. In a year, it's making so much money that in a year, people are going to say it's not a good movie because it made so much money, so it must be a bad movie.
What?
Which is kind of funny to say.
Hollywood logic.
Yeah.
So I think, you asked me like what made it so popular, and I'm like kind of putting myself back in that time, and it's also like So that's what I think brought people to theater the first time. But why do we continue watching it? I think part of it is that there's so many, first of all, the characters are like everyday people. And there's like a spectrum of characters that you can relate to. It's a huge cast.
Yeah.
And there's really no bad guys except that one.
The one schmarmy guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Secretary of Defense.
And even he gets redeemed. You know, he sits down and probably sits down with Judd Hirsch in the end. Yeah. But I think those are also reasons why we keep coming back to it and why it's so good.
Well, there are bad aliens, obviously, but there's no bad guys.
Right. Yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head, or, you know, shot the giant space laser into the monument.
That is what I did.
It's about the relationships. Like, it has these really cool interpersonal relationships with people, and then sprinkled in good character actors, like, just all throughout the movie. It just makes it fun to watch. And there's so many good lines. Yeah.
And the transitions are good. The pacing is good. Like, you don't feel like you're missing anything because you're in one scene too long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They tested it, right? They always test films usually before they release them wide. And they tested it, and it tested at like a 90 of 100, which was really high. But they had the original ending, which you still haven't seen.
I have not.
Maybe we'll show that one day. But the original ending has Russell K, like, he goes in his crop duster, and it literally has a missile tied onto the crop duster, and he flies the crop duster up into the ship and destroys the ship. And they I think, if I remember right, it was one of the guys who worked on Stargate, which Stargate was the movie before this for these guys, the director and producer.
What?
Which we love.
You're kidding.
No, that's the movie before this. Like, they were.
That was a huge life-changing movie for me. Yeah. I love that movie.
Yeah. So one of the people they worked with was like, read the script and was like, hey, wouldn't it be cool? Originally, they had him in a plane, just like what you saw in the theaters. But he's like, wouldn't it be cool if he just showed up in his crop duster and saved the day? So they did it. So the first screening, like, everybody laughed at that part. But like, when they were watching it, they were like, that's not a good laugh. That's not a good laugh. And so they went back to the studio and was like, we need to reshoot this. And it was like, I don't know, like weeks, like 6 weeks or something like that. Like, it was very close to when they were going to release it, because it had to be on July 3rd that it came out because of the movie, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so they were like, no, we got to do it. They went and did it. And like, with like, I think it was a week or two to spare, they like mailed the film like over there.
Wow.
Yeah. They showed it again with the new ending, and it got like a 98 score or something like that. It was just like lightning in a bottle, as they say.
Wow. Well, I'm glad they did all that, but man, that timing makes me so nervous.
Oh, all of it was
how stressful.
I can only imagine how gray they went, just like with the stress of like the schedule and everything.
It's worse than the presidency.
It really is. Actually, speaking of the presidency, Bill Clinton asked them to come screen it at the White House.
Really?
And the director, producer, and Bill Pullman were the three that were like in the bowling alley underneath. Nixon put in a bowling lane.
Right.
And so they made it into a theater or whatever. And they were like, it's a horrible screen. It's a tiny room for film. But anyway, they like were arguing over who had to go sit by Bill and Hillary, like, because they were nervous. And so the director and producer were like, you do it, Bill. You're a people person. So Bill Pullman sat in between them during it.
In between them? How awkward.
I know.
Why?
Like, sandwiched in between.
What?
I mean.
Did he hold the popcorn bucket?
It's probably reasons. Maybe it was, I don't want to think of it. They did say Bill Clinton had an enormous popcorn bucket. It was like huge. But anyway, so he got to go do that, and he was happy in the end because Bill Clinton took him on a tour of the White House afterwards, like a personal tour of the White House.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty cool. Wow. What else? I am talking and gushing like crazy. Sorry. What do you got?
One thing that stood out to us this time was that no one holds a phone like Bill Pullman.
Do you know how hard it is to have gravity, like add gravity to a phone like they had in that movie?
Right?
Like, I'm not exaggerating when I say I'm pretty sure that phone was 1 ounce. It's like holding a piece of paper. Like, it defies the laws of physics. holding a shape.
It could
like
almost
that.
float out of your hand.
It really could. Do you remember how light they were? It was crazy.
Okay, remember I didn't have technology,
right.
So I only had old phones.
Yeah, but you worked in companies that had them at some point, probably.
He just does everything great, and also when he was holding the speaker during the speech, he kind of holds it the same way.
Yeah,
and little touches like that really make it.
He actually added a really cool nuance to the speech. He prepped for the speech by like listening to like some CD of like the 100 best speeches, and was listening to like Kennedy. And he noticed in one of the speeches that like there was like this little blip where they were trying to get like the microphone to work, and they're like, all right, everybody calm down. And like that energy of like having the realism of the mistake, he's like, we need to make it so the mic doesn't work right away.
Yeah, I noticed that. He says good evening,
and it gets like static
or good morning
feedback
and then he starts again, and I was like, oh, he just calmly starts again.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
so
the little
good.
things. It's the little things. So wow. What is your, wow, my brain is overflowing. Sorry. If you could have had them blow up anything else that wasn't, what monument would you have picked, or like city?
The first thing that comes to mind are the pyramids. I love that shot at the end when the spaceship is like crashed right behind the pyramids. It's a really cool shot. Yeah. So maybe the pyramids. I mean, it made sense they were blowing up like sites that had dense population. So maybe like Brazil or something, like another. Sorry, Brazil, I love you. But I was just thinking of a place that has a lot of people. I don't know, like something like that maybe.
Okay.
Or these days I wonder if it would be like
I think they do the Needle or in Dubai.
That's what I was thinking
building.
of.
Yeah,
yes,
they would do that nowadays, totally.
Yeah.
Speaking of marketing too from earlier, it was really controversial at the time. But because the Oklahoma City bombing happened in 95. And so they wanted, for the Super Bowl, they did the ad of the White House exploding. Oh. And that was like a huge, like, don't do it. It's insensitive. And Roland was like, it's aliens blowing up the thing. It's not people. So, and then they showed the cut to the studio, and it was so good for the preview that he did it. And they did it for the Super Bowl. And then from there, like, everybody was just craving the movie. Yeah. It was crazy. The funny thing about this movie too is like you ask them. I read an oral history of just a retrospective with the actors and directors and producers, and they were like, "How did you get the idea for the movie?" And there's two conflicting accounts from the director and the producer. One of them remembers, like, we were doing the Stargate press tour, and someone asked us if you really believe the aliens built the pyramids, and we said no. But then Roland interrupted me and said, yeah, but wouldn't that be the most exciting day ever if you woke up and there were 14-mile wide spaceships like in the sky? And then that was the idea.
Just this offhand comment.
Yeah. And then another was, we got this idea. We got funding. That was the producer. But Roland was like, I remember like we were getting offered to do a Harrison Ford $70 million prison movie or something. And he was like, oh, geez, a prison escape movie? I could make my alien invasion movie for $70 million. And that's what he thought. So,
well, it seems like they both had an alien invasion movie on their minds. It had been mulling around, perhaps.
Well, yeah, they did Stargate too. So like that's probably just sitting there. Yeah. And anyway. I'm always so happy to watch this on the 4th of July. That's another reason why this movie, I think, has staying power, because you're like, what are you going to do on the 4th of July? Oh, you're going to watch that random Washington monument, like when there's the national band that plays. And you could literally just watch Independence Day because it happens on the days around it.
I know.
That was what was so crazy about when it came out, too.
Yes.
Like, it was like you were watching on the 3rd of July, and the movie happens on the 3rd of July.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a weird connection that was just so cool.
Yeah, totally.
I have memories of the way the summer air felt that summer, like, because I saw this movie probably 2 or 3 times in theaters.
Nice.
And I just can still feel it today. So, anyway. Any other parting thoughts?
Oh, man. I just always enjoy watching this movie. I love all the characters. And happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th of July.
You too, Munchkin. That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Tell us what you think of this film in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.